That is now 4 wins in a row for the Fan Wagon here in the Flock League. Let's check out how we got it done in Week 11. You heard that right, Fan Wagon. We just won our 4th contest in a row. 4 weeks ago, we were 3-4, sitting at about 10th in the league standings, and now we have a stranglehold on 3rd place and a playoff spot. This matchup in Week 11 wasn't particularly close at any point in time. Starting with the quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers as our streamer this week because Jackson Dart was in concussion protocol. He puts up 9.4 points. Obviously, he gets hurt in that game, misses a bunch of it, which was disappointing. At the time, it didn't end up mattering at all. We took down Avery by a final score of 138-66. Just an absolute disassembling of Avery's roster here. His quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, with a down game for his standards. I was hoping that it would be a bit of a slower game for the Chiefs against the Broncos, and I was absolutely right. I mean, he threw the ball 45 times, but only 1 touchdown. Didn't run the ball at all. The Broncos are very good at limiting rushing quarterbacks. At running back, starting it off with this man, Devon Achane, if you can see that on there, number 28. The jersey came in. This is the first time that I've purchased a NFL jersey of a team that wasn't my own. Obviously, you see the Titans jerseys behind me, but Devon Achane just carrying this team, and he did it again on Sunday in that Madrid game. A bit of a gross game, but he goes 21 for 120 yards, 5 receptions for 45. This is the Devon Achane special. No touchdown this week, which was a bit disappointing, and then he gets hurt at the end with that back injury. He obviously was able to go back into the game, which was incredible. I was holding my breath. If Devon Achane went down, I wouldn't have anything else to live for. I mean, he's the guy that's carrying us into the playoffs here. And they go into the bye in Week 12, so he has some time to rest up. Hopefully that back injury won't be an issue going forward. Over to Travis Etienne. We got something to talk about here because Bashal Tutin was looking really good in the first half of this game. He took a lot of carries at the beginning away from Etienne, and he did a lot with them. He had a touchdown before Etienne had any. Etienne ends up with 19 for 73 and 2 touchdowns. So Etienne has a great game, I think his best of the season. But there is a concern here that Bashal Tutin is on his heels for the RB1 role in this offense. Liam Cohen said after the game, or maybe it was on Monday, that Bashal Tutin had earned those carries with a good week of practice. And hopefully it's just like a, here you go, buddy. You had a good week of practice. We're going to give you some more carries, but Etienne's still the guy. I've already talked to Avery about moving Etienne for Amari and Hampton because now Avery at 5-6 needs a win next week. And Amari and Hampton is on bye. I can afford to weaken my roster in Week 12, so we can talk about that a bit more later. I do still think it's more likely than not that Etienne is the RB1 going forward, but there is more concern after this past game than there was previously, because it's not like Bashal Tutin was getting all the carries when this was already a blowout. This was while the game was close at the very beginning. Tutin was running quite well. Avery's running backs didn't do a whole lot. Javonte had a good game on Monday. Rashad White obviously gets sniped by Sean Tucker this past week. A huge game from Sean Tucker. At wide receiver, we got the 2 guys that we got for Nico Collins. Stephon Diggs with just under 20 points on Thursday night. Stud. T. Higgins with more points than Jamar Chase on the other side. Stud. Doesn't spit on anybody. T. Higgins, I'll have you know. Rashee Rice was quiet for Avery, which was good. And then at tight end, he had Sam Laporta, who then got placed on IR randomly out of nowhere a little bit. So he went with Jonnu Smith, who puts up a goose egg. Theo Johnson wasn't as good for us this week as he was last week. I thought Jameis would be throwing it all over the place a little more. David Njoku was really, really good with Jameis last year. I figured big tight end, athletic guy. Theo Johnson would have the same luck, but only 3 for 36. We did have our tight end 1, George Kittle, go nuts in our flex spot. Almost 25 points. Our biggest score of the week, I believe it was. 6 for 67 and 2 touchdowns. Big game from George Kittle. Brock Purdy back is huge. It wasn't as huge for Ricky Pearsall, who has 1 reception for no yards. I'm not worried about him going forward, though. I think that, it's the first game back. It wasn't really a game. They were blowing them out pretty much the entire time. So I'm still happy to have Ricky going forward. Kittle put up a goose egg in his first game back. I'm not going to take too much from it. My kicker was great, 12 points, but he did get injured, so we're going to need to find a replacement there. And then the Dallas defense. There was a lot of people in the comments of last week's video telling me that I shouldn't play the Cowboys and that I should stick with the Seattle Seahawks. And I ended up going with the Cowboys. It wasn't consequential because we won by so much, but it was the right call. They put up 9 points and the Seahawks only put up 3. And I think this is maybe a good moment to explain my philosophy on this. I said at the very beginning of the year in one of the Flock League videos that my philosophy with defenses is just streaming matchups, and I don't think that's going to change. The Seahawks are obviously 10 times as good as the Cowboys in terms of a defensive unit, but look what they did in this game. 21 points they allowed, which is great. The Rams are a top 5 offense in the league this year. Matthew Stafford is throwing 5 touchdowns a game, and they only allowed 21 points. They get 1 forced fumble, and they recover that fumble, so they end up with 3. Whereas the Cowboys allow 16 points to an awful Raiders offense. They pick them off. They pick Geno off once. They get 4 sacks and a safety. So while having a really good defense like the Seahawks in a really good matchup is great, I would rather play a worse defense against a worse offense in the Raiders. And that's what I saw this week. You're going to get the turnovers. That's what's going to get you points. So I'm going to continue to do that, play the matchups. The Seahawks have a great one against the Titans next week, so I will be going with them there. But that's just my philosophy on the defenses there. I wanted to explain that a little bit. Avery gets about 9 points total from Malik Washington and Devonta Smith, kicker and defense, whatever. On our bench, Jackson Dart was obviously out. I picked up Jaleel McLaughlin before the weekend to see if maybe he would get a bigger role than RJ Harvey. I mean, he carried the ball 6 times. He had the touchdown, but he wasn't worth keeping on the roster, especially because they're going into the bye, so he'll be gone. Jordan Mason with his lowest snap share of the year. He's just not involved anymore. Aaron Jones is the complete RB1. Jordan Mason gets the touchdown this week, and I might have to play him in week 12 because Devon Achane's on a bye, but he's going to have an incredibly low floor anytime he's in your lineup. And then Christian Watson with a pleasant 2 touchdowns on the bench. I had him in the lineup over Theo Johnson pretty much all week. I think in the video that I posted last week, Christian Watson was in the lineup over Theo Johnson. I ended up making the switch. It was the wrong decision. Didn't hurt me this week. Could hurt me in the future. So we need to get better with that. But Christian Watson, with all the injuries to the Packers, he looks like he's going to be relied upon. Only 5 targets, but he's always there for that big play. He's the red zone target. He's a contested catch machine. So he is definitely somebody that is going to be in our lineup for several weeks going forward. And then I had the Seahawks defense on the bench, who I already talked about. So that is how we got it done in week 11, moving to 7-4, continuing our winning streak. Let's check out how that sets us up in the league standings. All right, looking at the standings here, you have the top 2 teams. Sal running away at 10-1. He has almost 300 more points for than the next highest points for team. Just a ridiculous team. And then Mason, who is 9-2, but only has 70 more points for than us at 7-4 in 3rd place. We have sole possession of 3rd place still. Thomas the Editor won this week, moving to 6-5. And then there's 3 5-6 teams, the Devs, Avery, and Bush, and 4 4-7 teams, Nathan, Badaki, Zach, Danny, and then you have Nick at the bottom at 3-8. So we are in an incredible position to secure a playoff spot, and this week it's winning in. We're playing against the Devs. They are at 5-6. We are at 7-4. If we beat the Devs in week 12, we will be 8-4. They will be 5-7. They will be unable to pass us, and that will put everybody else with less than 5 wins currently as unable to catch up to us, and therefore we would secure a playoff spot. So we beat the Devs this week, and we secure a playoff spot. If Danny had beaten Mason with his Monday night sweat of Dak and CD, we would have been in contention for a bye. That's kind of out the window now. 3 games left. We need Mason to probably lose all 3, and we need to win all 3 because he has the points for tiebreaker. But it's all right if we just stick in 3rd place here. We have a matchup against Thomas in week 13 that could secure us this 3rd place spot. We obviously play the Devs this week and then Nick the Editor in the final week of the season. So that's the situation for us heading into week 12 here. We have a win and in against Dev Row. Now, waivers this week, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to cover them because Sleeper, I don't know if any of you saw this, had an issue on Monday night where as soon as the games ended and all the leagues were rolling over, all the players were in free agency, but you couldn't add them. So you couldn't make any waiver claims because everybody just had a green plus instead of the normal yellow circle with the W, if you know what I'm talking about, on Sleeper. And so anybody who was trying to place waiver claims after the Monday Night Football game had finished couldn't do it. So they ran with everybody who made claims before, but we're probably going to have to reset them and do it again for Wednesday morning. So let's just look at my Week 12 matchup. All right, in week 12 against the Devs, we played them in week 1 of the regular season, all the way back 3 months ago, and we did just barely eke out a win. I'm pretty sure they had DeAndre Swift and the Vikings defense on Monday night, and we were able to sweat it out and we got the dub. But this week is a lot different. Our teams have changed a ton. Starting at the quarterbacks, theirs hasn't changed. Jalen Hurts against Dallas. It's a really good matchup. Hopefully the Eagles continue to struggle, because he does have the stack with AJ Brown. We are throwing Jackson Dart back out there. The reports are that he should be practicing this week, that he should clear through the protocol for this game against Detroit. There's a lot of talk about him needing to change his running style, to not take so many hits, how the coaching staff needs to limit him from taking all these hits. I think that's going to be more of him learning when to slide, him learning when to run out of bounds, instead of just going for the contact every time. I don't think that any worries about him reducing his rushing production are warranted. I'm still really happy to have him, and we're going to throw him out there. If for some reason he doesn't clear the protocol, we'll have to find a guy off waivers. Let me know who your favorite streamer is this week in the comments. I dropped Aaron Rodgers because he has the wrist thing, but it could be him. Joe Flacco got dropped. It could be Joe Flacco. There's a lot of options. At running back, Devon Achane is on bye. So our running back room is a little thin this week. We're starting Travis Etienne, unless he gets traded. And we are starting currently Jordan Mason, because he's going to get somewhere from 5 to 8 carries, and that's it. And it's against Green Bay, who are a good defense. So not much else you can do. The waivers, there's no Sean Tucker this week. The waiver wire for running back is just absolutely bare. Not a ton of attractive options. So currently we're going with Jordan Mason. The Devs have Jahmyr Gibbs, who is coming up against the New York Giants, who are a really good matchup for running backs. He could punish us a ton this week. And then DeAndre Swift against Pittsburgh also could punish us. Hopefully he gets vultured by Monungai on the goal line maybe. At wide receiver, we have our tandem of Stephon Diggs and T. Higgins, who are playing each other. So that's fun. I'm definitely going to have that game on one of my TVs on Sunday. A really good matchup for Diggs. Obviously, the Bengals should be able to put up points. The Patriots should have to throw the ball. So I'm excited about this for Stephon Diggs. For T. Higgins, Jamar Chase is obviously suspended for the spit, and this has implications for T. Higgins. Obviously, it cannot be denied. I think a lot of people would jump to this is good for T. Higgins. More targets. Jamar Chase is taking a lot of them, and now they're going to go to T. My concern is Christian Gonzalez, the star all-pro cornerback for the Patriots, who, if Chase was playing, would probably be on him. And now that focus is going to shift over to T. Higgins. Part of what makes T. Higgins a great fantasy asset is that he has a Jamar Chase in front of him to take a lot of the defense's attention. Look at what George Pickens did last night against the Raiders. So I think T. Higgins is still a great play. I hope that he gets a lot of points. I think he could have a really big game, but I don't think it's just wheels up. He's going to blow up this week because Jamar Chase is out. I just want to dampen that a little bit. On the dev side, JSN against the Tennessee Titans. My Tennessee Titans, who are absolutely terrible. JSN, who is the wide receiver, one on the year, top 3. He's the wide receiver 1. My only hope here is that they don't need him to beat the Tennessee Titans. That's the hope, because they've needed him every week. I think he set a record for most games to start a season with 75 or more yards. He has less than 80 yards in one game this year. It's ridiculous. He's on an absolute tear. So I'll just pray that they can get it done on the ground. The Titans can defend the run a little bit, so probably not. What a nightmare. I mean, JSN could put 35, 40 on my head this week. They're also starting Romeo Doubs currently against the Minnesota Vikings. I will probably be starting Christian Watson, so there'll be an interesting battle there. At tight end, a fun little battle here. George Kittle on Monday night against the Carolina Panthers. Hopefully a big game from him. That'd be fun if I needed some points on Monday night. Get to watch Kittle and Pearsall. And then the devs are going with Travis Kelce, who they've been going with all year, against the Colts. I think it's a fine matchup, nothing special. He obviously had a big game against the Broncos. I didn't even realize 9 for 91 and a touchdown. Good for Kelce. In my flex spots currently, I am sitting with Ricky Pearsall in that game against the Panthers. I'm sticking with him, throwing him back out there, and then currently playing Christian Watson against the Vikings. I feel like Christian Watson has the potential to just burn me every week. I'll play him. He'll do badly. I'll put him on the bench. He'll score 20 points. He's just that boom bust type of guy. Maybe it doesn't even matter what the matchup is, but he ends up in my lineup this week most likely. Hopefully another touchdown or two. The devs, AJ Brown in one of their flex spots. I talked about that with Jalen Hurts. Hopefully they continue to struggle. Obviously he ends up with, I think, 8 targets oh my gosh, 11 targets against the Lions. But there were questions about his effort on some of those plays. Dallas is obviously a really good matchup. There's a lot of potential for the Devs to end our streak here. I mean, the combination of Hurts, Gibbs, JSN, and AJ Brown could easily take us down, especially when we don't have our best player. Their other flex is Jawan Jennings, who will be in that Monday night game. This could be a Monday night sweat for the ages. Us having George Kittle and Ricky Pearsall, Jawan Jennings on the other side. At defense, I am playing Seattle. Like I said, the Devs currently have Chicago in there against Pittsburgh. If it's Mason Rudolph, that's a good play because he'll turn the ball over. So we did indeed have to reset all the waivers so that they will run tomorrow morning, being Wednesday morning. So again, they won't be able to be in this video, and my lineup is going to look the exact same as it did at the end of week 11. Meaning my kicker who got hurt is in my starting lineup. I will be picking somebody else up. There's a few guys that I'm looking at. It doesn't really matter. It's a kicker. Moving over to the bench, Theo Johnson first up. He wasn't as good in week 11 as he was in week 10. I don't mind holding on to him. The thing is that he has the same bye as George Kittle. So he's not even helpful as a replacement in week 14. So there are one or two guys on the waivers that I could pick up for Theo Johnson, AJ Barner being one of them, who are good as a backup and could also slot in week 14. Rashid Shaheed, this is fun. So Monday night, Sal puts Shaheed on the trade block and says, I'll send him away for Fab because he needed a roster spot. I sent him $2 and he accepted it. So Shaheed for $2, a bit of a no-brainer. He obviously gets traded at the deadline. He's played 2 games and hasn't even seen a full allotment of snaps. 34% in week 10 against Arizona, and then 54% this past week against the Rams, but he earned 5 targets. So I'm excited about him as a stash on the bench heading into the playoffs. Then we have Devon Achane, who is on the bye week. Obviously, we're going to struggle without him, but hopefully some other guys can step up. And Aaron Rodgers is the next guy. He's obviously questionable. I'm probably going to drop him for somebody else with Jackson Dart back. There's no real reason to keep him on the roster. And I don't think I want to stream him just with the fractured left wrist. That just scares me a little bit. So if I do have to play somebody else, I'll find another streamer. And then we have the Dallas defense, who I will be dropping for another defense to rotate with Seattle. So the Seahawks have a few really good matchups coming up. They have the Titans in week 12, Minnesota, they get to play against 9 in week 13, and then the Falcons with Kirk Cousins in week 14. All great matchups. Then you get into the playoffs and they have the Colts and the Rams, 15 and 16. Not great. So I'm looking for a defense that has good week 15 and 16 matchups. There's a few out there. The Seahawks are good in week 17 at the Panthers. So if you want to find out everything that happened on the waiver wire, it should be recapped in the Friday Flock League video. There's nothing too exciting anyways. So that's it for our matchup in week 12. Really hoping for a win here because that would secure us a playoff spot. We can just chill for weeks 13 and 14, start prepping everything for the playoffs. I'm feeling really good about this run that we're on. The difference in 4 weeks ago being 3 and 4 and 10th in the standings to now this week 7 and 4, a stranglehold on a playoff spot. This has been such a wild ride. So that's going to do it for this week's video. Thank you all so much for tuning in every week. I really appreciate the support. This is our team, and I'm so happy to have so many fans just like myself on board for this journey. Hit the like button if you're enjoying these videos. Get it pushed out to as many people as possible. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football, or if you're looking to get into it this coming off season, maybe your redraft season is over. You got hit with the injury bug, you're 2-8, you're 2-9, and you want to start listening to some Dynasty Fantasy Football content. I do a podcast with a good friend of mine. It's called the Dynasty Arsenal. It's a lot of fun. I'll put the link in the description. We're also on Spotify and Apple. If you prefer to listen there, go check us out. Good luck to all of you in your week 12 matchups, in your playoff pushes. I will see you all in week 13.